On February 23, 1954, the first ever mass injections of the polio vaccine are administered to school children.
But what is polio? And how does it affect those who contract it? Also, how was the polio vaccine developed? Additionally, what are the chances of contracting polio today?
Polio is a highly contagious disease that seemed impossible to stop. It attacks nerve cells and sometimes the central nervous system, causing muscle deterioration, paralysis, and even death. Children are especially susceptible, and there is no cure once contracted. Technically, the virus that causes the disease is called poliovirus, while the disease caused by the virus is known as poliomyelitis. It is believed to be of ancient origin, with evidence indicating that the disease could go back to the 16th century BC in ancient Egypt. The major polio epidemics, however, began in the latter half of the 19th century. The most extreme cases of polio paralyzed breathing muscles. Patients were placed into what's called an iron lung, which was invented in 1927 at Harvard University. It was an airtight metal box that changed air pressure to pull air into and out of the lungs. Most patients spent a few weeks or months in the iron lung until the temporary polio-induced paralysis was overcome. Therapists used several techniques to help patients regain strength in their chest muscles, with patients gradually spending more and more time outside the iron lung to gradually build up the muscles. Over time, they could spend most of the day outside the iron lung, returning to it at night to give their tired bodies time to rest. Sadly, those with permanent paralysis could spend the rest of their lives in an iron lung. American Paul Alexander contracted polio at age 6 in 1952 and lived most of his life in an iron lung, dying in 2024 at age 78. His 72 years are the most spent in an iron lung. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the most famous American polio victim. Atypically, he contracted the disease not as a child, but as an adult at age 39. It permanently paralyzed his legs. FDR won his first term as president 11 years later in 1932. He hid his disability from the public, who did not know that their president could not walk. It was a different time when there was a stigma attached to physical disabilities. Roosevelt used heavy braces underneath his pants that enabled him to stand during public speeches. He had specially made wheelchairs that were designed to look like regular chairs. That way, when he was sitting at a desk, it appeared that he was in an ordinary chair. FDR even had his car rigged up so that he could drive using only his hands. He is considered one of the nation's greatest presidents and is honored with a monument in Washington, D.C. In 1938, President Roosevelt founded the March of Dimes. 10 years later, the nonprofit enlisted Dr. Jonas Salk from the University of Pittsburgh to combat the disease. Salk's research showed 3 basic types of polio and 125 different strains. He determined that an effective vaccine needed to combat all 3 types. Salk developed the vaccine by growing samples of poliovirus and then deactivating them by adding a chemical called formalin. This immunized the patient without the patient becoming infected. After limited trials, a group of children from Arsenal Elementary in Pittsburgh received the first mass injections. By 1955, 4 million shots had been given. Salk's initial polio vaccine was about 60 to 70% effective. In the late 1950s, another version of the vaccine was developed by Polish-American researcher Albert Sabin. Sabin's vaccine was highly effective, and most importantly, it was delivered orally, which meant it was much less expensive and easier to administer. Thanks to these vaccines, by 2001, worldwide polio cases had been reduced by 99%. Statistics show that in the United States in 1952, 2 years before widespread distribution of the vaccine began, there were 58,000 cases. 5 years later, in 1957, that number had dropped to 5,400. In 1962, there were only 910 cases, and in 1967, just 41. In 1979, the disease was declared to have been eliminated from the United States. A case reported in 1993 was the most recent in the U.S. until a 2022 case was reported in Rockland County, New York. 2 of the 3 types of polio have been eradicated worldwide, while the other type remains endemic in a few places, with outbreaks reported in recent years in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Gaza. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1778, former Prussian officer Friedrich von Steuben arrives at Valley Forge to train Washington's troops. In 1847, during the Mexican-American War, the U.S. defeats Mexican troops at the Battle of Buena Vista. In 1868, black scholar and civil rights proponent W.E.B. Du Bois is born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. In 1940, Disney's second animated feature, Pinocchio, is released in theaters nationwide. In 1943, siblings Hans and Sophie Scholl, leaders of the youth group White Rose, are beheaded by the Nazis. In 1945, during the bloody Battle of Iwo Jima, U.S. Marines raised the American flag on Mount Suribachi. In 2021, golfing legend Tiger Woods suffers multiple leg injuries in a single-car crash in California. And now, it's time for our Today in History quiz. How many U.S. presidents have been impeached? 0, 1, 2, or 3?
Liked learning about polio? Then you'll enjoy this one about an even deadlier disease, smallpox. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.